Hello, I'm Ward Marston, and I want to tell you something about a project that I'm working on for my CD label, Marston Records, which my partner Scott Kessler and I have been running since about 1997. Our label is aimed at reissuing the great recordings of the past, concentrating on vocal recordings of serious music and also piano recordings. And our website is www.marstonrecords.com. If you're interested in taking a look at our website, which I hope you will. Anyway, today I'd like to talk about the great Irish tenor John McCormack and a project that we are beginning to work on. We are producing in the next year a 17 CD set which will contain all of John McCormack's electrical recordings from 1925 to 1942, plus a complete edition of all of his very early records made for the Gramophone and Typewriter Company in 1904, and all of his cylinder recordings made for the Edison and the Edison Bell companies in 1904 and 1905. And then finally, we will also be including all of John McCormack's known extant radio broadcasts from the 1930s. So it's really quite an ambitious production, and I thought that today I would make a couple of few videos, short videos for YouTube, to basically demonstrate some of the things that we will be including on our 17 CD set, and basically talking about how I go about my work. So today I would like to show you John McCormack's very first record. This is a 7-inch G&T, Gramophone Company record. I don't know if you can see that or not. For those of you who are not old record collectors, you don't probably know this, but these very early records were only printed on one side. And so, and Mark, I don't know, should I hold that differently so people, okay, so that you can see the design on the back. These records were only pressed on one side. Now, the 7-inch record was the first kind of disc that was produced by Emil Berliner, who was the inventor of the disc gramophone, which was the competitor of the Edison cylinder in the early days. And these 7-inch discs were produced in the late 1890s and in the early 1900s. But by the time McCormack made his records in 1904, these 7-inch records were being phased out. But it was felt that John McCormack should record some 7-inch records for the market, for the Irish market, because it was felt that a lot of people still had machines that would only play 7-inch records, that would not play any larger records. So he recorded the same selections on the 7-inch record, and then he would do the same recording on a 10-inch record. And there are little differences between the recordings because he would sing them a little bit differently and so on, but it's basically the same recording. Sometimes some of these 7-inch records have a are somewhat truncated because they couldn't fit as much music on the record. The 7-inch record could only accommodate about 2.5 minutes, and the 10-inch record could accommodate about 3.5 minutes at the most. So sometimes he would only sing a single verse of a song on the 7-inch record, but on the 10-inch record he would record 2 verses. So let's see what one of these 7-inch records sounds like. This is his very first record, called Killarney, by Balfe, Michael Balfe. And let's see what this sounds like. Now, when I play a record, I don't really know two things about what I'm going to do. One is I don't know what the stylus I'm going to use is going to be, because I have about 30 different size playback styli. A stylus looks like this. And I have a large number of different sizes. And for every record, there's always an optimum size stylus that will give you the best sound and the least amount of surface noise. Well, with these old records, they all have a lot of surface noise, but there will be a stylus that will do better than others. So I have this playing at about 78 RPM, and I have a stylus in here that is not going to give me very good sound, but I'm hoping you'll hear this and you'll see. Okay, you can hear that it's mostly surface noise and not much of John McCormick. So we can't tolerate that, can we? So I'm going to put another stylus in that will be, I know it's going to be better, and probably will be quite good, actually. So let's see what this sounds like. Okay, now, what's wrong with that record? Well, what's wrong with it, it's playing at the wrong speed. McCormick sounds like a chipmunk. So let's see about lowering the speed. Now, I have a little pitch oscillator here, and right now it's playing at about 78 RPM, and it was sounding just a bit above A flat. So I'm going to pitch this down into the key of G. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sound a D, natural, and that is the fifth note in the scale of G. And it's easier for me to tune the record using the fifth to tune against. So now I'm going to lower the speed until I get it where I want it. And I've got it pretty much in tune, and I'm going to ask my assistant here, because I don't know, I can't, because I'm totally blind, I can't read the speed readout on the turntable. So, Mark, what speed am I playing this at?
73.5.
73.5. So, those of us who call these records 78s realize that 78 is quite a misnomer, because these records can play at any speed. Now, I need to do some research here because I'm not sure that that speed is actually correct. That might be too low. G might actually be too low. It's possible that this record should actually play in a true A flat. And of course, it's also possible that the piano in the studio of the G&T company was tuned below the pitch of 440, which is what we use today. It's possible the piano was tuned at 435. But I'm going to tune this record up at just a little bit below A flat to see what his voice sounds like in that key. I think that's the correct speed. And what's, Mark, what am I playing this at now? What speed?
75.3.
75.3. The voice still sounds a little bit high, but don't forget that McCormick was 20 years old and he was untrained. So over the next few months, I'm going to do a great deal of research and playing of different records to try to determine whether this voice is correct or whether the G major voice is correct. And part of that will be by measuring the speed of the vibrato of McCormick's recordings, of these recordings, played against recordings that are a bit later, where we actually know the speed. For example, his 1910 Victor of Killarney is we can use that as a Rosetta Stone, because we know what's key. The Victor recording from 1910, we know what key it's sung it, what key he sings it in. So we can measure the speed of the vibrato and perhaps determine what the proper pitch for these 1904 records should be. So that's what I'll be doing in the next couple of months, and I hope you'll all stay tuned.